according to Bloomberg, Instacart has plans to, quote, replace the army of its gig shoppers with robots, as part of a long-term strategy to cut costs and put its relationship with supermarket chains on a sustainable footing, end quote. I just had visions of like Bart Simpson as I was doing
going to say the same thing. I'm like Bart Simpson robots just like shipping and picking and stuff in the back warehouse.
That probably is a Simpson episode, right? Like the robots. If not, it soon will be. Now, the background here is that Bloomberg says it got its hand on a report. I love this. There's all these people getting hands on reports lately. We had Jason Del Rey and Walmart. Now Bloomberg has its hands on a report. And the report says that Instacart reportedly is looking to build out robotic warehouses and has looked at up to 5 micro-fulfillment automation partners for that exercise. Now, supposedly the strategy or the intention behind the strategy has been in place for over a year, but there's been no takers on the retail side yet to sign up for this effort. The article also suggests that Instacart is doing this because, essentially it's intimating that they're on shaky ground with retailers in terms of how they're going to position themselves or align themselves with retailers going forward. So,
yes,
we're going to start off with a whiz bang here. This is going to be a whiz bang type of show. We're going to go for it. Put you on the spot question to start. And Chad from A&M is really pissed from last week because we gave him such a hard question. So sorry about this one. So here's the question from Chad. With this report, Instacart appears to have come one step closer to bringing the whole issue of owning versus outsourcing online grocery fulfillment to a head. Where do you, Ann, believe this ultimately goes? Will retailers get on board with standalone Instacart fulfillment centers? Or is this the breaking point where retailers begin to take control of online fulfillment and the customer touch point? And the floor is yours.
Well, Chad, as you called me out last week, I will say that I think that this is Instacart experimenting, and grocers are hedging their bets against Instacart. So Instacart should prepare to have their own operations too. They are competing with both sides. They're competing with the rapid delivery now in the DoorDash, the GoPuffs that we talked about last week in that, 30-minute and less delivery space. And they're also competing against grocers who are, standing up their own operations here. Labor shortages are real. I think that was a weird part of this headline. Like, I don't understand why that's being thrown in here. My guess is since we already knew that Instacart has been talking to people, like that was old news from May or like earlier this year that they had been dating some micro fulfillment providers. So I don't know how much the labor angle is going to end up playing into this, but net, does this feel like, a retailer move for Instacart? Maybe not. Does it put them in an excellent position to, position themselves in a different space or make that pivot down the road? If grocers do say, time out, we're done with you, Instacart. Absolutely. So I like this move from Instacart. I think it makes sense. But I don't know that I see any like changes immediately because of this with the grocer Instacart relationship. What about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Let's flush that out more too. I think in response to that question is, I think what I'm hearing from you, which is what I agree with too. I think there's a lot of false dichotomies going on out there where it's, you either partner with Instacart or you don't partner with Instacart. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are getting, and then also what should Instacart do about it? Like, okay, let's get into like they need to become their own grocer. Like I don't think that's necessarily the right answer either, right? Like there's a lot of nuance to this discussion that I think has to be brought out. The article did a good job in that towards the like 2/3 end of it of some of the other options. Like shout out to Delivery Solutions who we're a part of. Full disclosure, right. Like there's a way to have relationships with Instacart where you also are still in control of your own destiny. So I think the question then becomes, for me, the big question is what does Instacart do? And I think you're right. Like it's an experiment. It's a low cost experiment. If it works, it doesn't. Are there grocers that need you to do that? Maybe. And let's also forget, Instacart isn't just grocery anymore. It's a marketplace for everything.
Right.
I am starting though to hate the Instacart needs to become its own grocery argument. And because I don't think it's going to happen. Like, here's the thing. One, they don't know how to do it, right? Physical grocery is actually pretty darn hard if you're going to be in people's consideration set. And if they start to do it, then the marketplace goes away because people will start shutting down those relationships pretty quickly. And the marketplace is inherently where all the value is and where all the connection is. And so if you're not going to have the other offerings in there, then you're just becoming a grocer, right? Like You're going to start losing some of those advantages. So so I don't really get that and understand that. And like I think we've talked about this a few weeks ago. Like there's still opportunities to partner with them in the right spots, right? Like you can use them for delivery, you can use them for picking and packing, you can use them for curbside, like Costco's doing. I think what will end up happening is everything will settle in some degree to that effect. Now, is Instacart overvalued? Maybe. Will the investors want to chase more growth? Maybe. I don't think that's the right answer, though. That's actually, to me, a road to nowhere. It's something going to settle in the middle, which is always the way stories work.
The question that I'm curious to get your perspective on, Chris, is I hear a lot of arguments of, grocers themselves can't afford to build these micro fulfillment centers. So does this make sense if like Instacart and grocery stores are splitting the cost of building these? I still don't know where that makes sense too. Like, do you think that grocers would adopt that concept the same way that they adopted, like, we're just going to use Instacart as one of our fulfillment partners for delivery? Like, I don't see them like going, I don't see any grocers going in and like taking the cost burden of building a micro fulfillment center as a reason to get more in bed with Instacart. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I mean, I think that's where I still hear sometimes people say, micro fulfillment's expensive. It doesn't feel like it is to me, honestly, from an experiment standpoint. But I could see people using that just like they used Instacart in the past. Like, let me trial the customer demand with you and then see if I like it and it works. And then I could start building it myself. Because the thing I don't get with this type of setup too is that they're probably not on site. So you're not getting the scale efficiencies of the building already being there, the inventory already being there. You're basically standing up a separate operation. Instacart also is not, like we talked about a few weeks ago, Instacart's not going to get any scale in this if they do it
Right.
by retailer each time, right? So that's
Right.
inherently weird to me in this whole idea too. I don't see them pooling the inventory across different people. That for a whole host of reasons, which we've said that's weird. So I could see retailers either saying like, we never want to do this, so we will use somebody like you for this, which I think that's a real possibility when you start looking at some of the regional grocers in terms of how they want to operate, or they'll use it as a step in the process to prove that, there's something to the idea, and then they'll settle out on what's the right mix, which could be like Instacart operates in some locations, some regions we put it in our stores as all the other technologies like our partners Takeoff, continue to evolve and, determine what works and what doesn't at the most efficient rate. There's so many ways to slice this. I think putting the argument into this, like Instacart has to do this or this now, is such a social media thing. And I'm so tired. I'm tired of that argument. I really am. Like, it's just missing the context. And play out the Instacart becoming its own grocer. Like, how does that work?
Right.
And by the way, let's not forget, I'm curious to your thoughts because I thought this overnight and then we'll move on. But like, Ship's sitting here doing the exact same thing. So like, Ship's already the grocer with Target. So like, I don't really like, I don't get what that play is either. What do you think on that last point?
Well, I think that what we're learning here is that there's much deeper conversations and scenarios that need to be explored and that could play out here than just does this make them a retailer headline? Like I was saying at the beginning, like, is this something that a retailer might do or that they might make the move toward if they were a retailer? Sure. But you're right. Like with Shipt and Target, I mean, it's a little bit different because Target owns Shipt, but I think that there's still so much more deep conversation and strategy that can be brought into this.
Well, even the article, like they're trying to replace the gig work. I don't agree with that. Like that's where all their scale is. You start doing this, that's a completely different business model, a completely different setup that you're trying to run. So it's not even a full replacement. There's so much nuance missed in this. I'm actually getting frustrated, like just with how much nuance it felt like was missed with this whole story.